Round of Daily Ignite. With me today, I've got Clare Davis, and Clare and I are going to talk about mental health, but more importantly, burnout. How to spot it, how to prevent it, all of the things to do with burnout. Before we dive in, I never do bios, Clare, because I don't think actually anybody listens to it. Where can people find you?
Okay, thank you, Tim. Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm Clare Davis. I've got a website which is novaassociates.co.uk. That's Nova.
As in the blue title that you've got on the screen.
Yeah, funny that. And there's two A's, the blue title. Thank you very much for picking that up. I'm also on LinkedIn under mental health for managers, and there's a hyphen in between each word.
And you're Davis, as in Davis, aren't you?
Yes, I'm no frills, no I in Clare, no E in
No,
Davis.
no, just a straight
you
Davis.
See what you get.
Yeah. So, as I said, we're talking about mental health and burnout.
Yeah.
You've actually experienced burnout, haven't you, yourself?
I did.
So, why don't you talk us through what happened and then what did you do about it?
Oh, thank you, Tim, for asking. So burnout, it's very interesting because I experienced burnout in the 90s.
Okay.
And that was before we really used the word burnout. Anybody who burnt out was seen to be not coping at work. So I joined a big corporate in London, and I moved really, really quickly up the hierarchy, if you want to call it a hierarchy. So we become managers if we're good at our jobs. But often we become managers because we're good at our jobs, but we don't realize that the skills are different in management to actually the role.
Any job that when you change job, the skill can be different, can't it?
Oh, definitely, definitely. And I think for managers, I think it's so different because it's people skills, and they're very, very different to the technical skills. So what I found was that I was being pushed further and further and further in my management role, and I didn't realize I'd burnt out because we didn't use the word. And if I had been seen to be not struggling, to be struggling and not coping, and if I went and saw anyone about it, I saw that as failure.
Yeah, and I spoke to somebody last week who said they shared with their leader that they thought they were burnt out, and they believed they'd missed out on a promotion because they'd shared it.
And I've heard that more than once. I've heard that a lot. And at the time, I thought if I told them I wasn't coping, that I would be managed out and I would be sacked because they were known just to get rid of people. Let's get rid of them. Let's get rid of them. And I felt like a failure, actually. And I used to have the mindset of, I can't cope. I'm not good at this. I'm not management material, etc. And it was a case that I found, I was in my 20s at the time, and I found that I was exhausted. I was physically and emotionally exhausted without realizing it. And I was engaged. I didn't even have children. I shouldn't have been exhausted. And I spent my whole weekend sleeping.
Yeah, I've done that.
Yeah. And it was a situation where I didn't feel like talking to people. I didn't feel like socializing. I was just absolutely
certainly in my 20s, what I thought was, and I don't know if this is the same for other people in their 20s, was that you didn't feel that you had a career.
Yes.
Because you were kind of just starting out.
Yeah.
You were kind of needing to prove yourself. Yeah. Everybody tended to be older than you that you were dealing with. So, I'd end up working 80, 100 hours.
Oh, yeah.
A week.
Yeah.
And I remember I was in a situation, I was out with my then partner, she was looking for shoes. And there's when, in the area where women buy shoes, there's always a place for men to sit.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember just falling asleep.
Oh, I did that. I did that on the tube all the time. I would be at dinner. Because I lived in London. My in-laws were in Bristol and would come down for the weekend, and I'd just be even at the breakfast table falling asleep, and at dinner falling asleep, and would watch a film and I'd fall asleep. And I'd say I loved visiting the countryside, going to the Cotswolds, etc. And I didn't want to go. I just did not have the energy for anything. didn't want to socialize or anything. And it was a detriment actually to my relationship and also to my friendships, but mainly I found it was of detriment to my productivity in the workplace, because I was on the back foot all the time. What do I have to do? I've got to do this. I've got to change. I've got to change. Whereas actually I didn't have to change. I just had to understand that I was good at the role and I shouldn't have been working 12, 13, 14, 15 hours a day. I shouldn't have been skipping lunch. I should have been looking after myself.
Yeah, it's true. And I think that, there's some fundamentals, aren't there, in life in terms of eating, sleeping, and getting exercise.
Yeah.
And they're actually the things that you need to find time for.
Yeah.
But
definitely.
you need to be doing them, because actually if you're doing those things, you get greater efficiency in terms of what else you're doing.
Oh, definitely. And I love the fact that you've just actually stressed those words, find time for, Tim, because I grew up, and I don't know if you were the same, but a lot of my friends were the same. I grew up with a father who was a workaholic. And if we were seen to sleep in the mornings, on the weekend, we were seen to be lazy. And we had to be on the go all the time. And that's the mindset that I had. That was almost what was programmed into my mind. For me to be as successful as my father, I had to be on this treadmill, going, and with an organization that was going. And if I was seen to have fun or relax, that was seen to be lazy, actually. So
yes, and I think you gave me some figures which I wrote down when we had the preparation call, which was that 30% of workforce experience burnout, 53% of managers experience burnout.
Actually, the figures have gone up. It's 52% of the workforce now experience burnout since COVID. 52%. So Indeed did a study only about last year, and they found that it's gone up by 9%.
And I think that's probably you could, the fact that we're working from home. It's easy to say, I'm just going to look at my email or whatever it is, isn't it?
Yeah. And I have to, even on the weekends, I have to say, Claire, you are not going to your office today. You are not checking your emails. I have actually made sure, and people think, wow, that's a bit odd. She's can't check her email when she's not at her desk. And it's like, no, my email's not on my phone. And as well as that, my LinkedIn is not on my phone. My banking's not on my phone. And it's actually for a reason, because I can be glued enough to that phone with just WhatsApp messages.
Yes. So Anam has come up with this, has said, this is so true. Relaxing and fun are not given any importance or space in many households. Good point.
They're not. Households, thank you very much for that comment, but also in a lot of organizations.
Yes.
And what we should be doing is promoting fun. My topic of the month, this month, is actually laughter.
Right.
And it's all about, I've interviewed people from all over the world for my YouTube podcast, but also for my blog. And what I found is that there is a lot more promotion of laughter and having a bit of fun in the workplace, because we are so much more productive, and we're more creative as well. And it really does help us with our mental health and not to burn out.
Yeah, and I think that I mean, for those that don't know, and this could be kept forever. So we've just had a long weekend here in the UK. So we have a public holiday on a Monday, and it just so happened that I had to be on a podcast at 9 p.m. UK time
yesterday on the Monday.
Friday night.
Friday night,
which finished at 10 p.m. Now that's part of my job to do that, and I'm very privileged to be able to do that. But the moment that I came off that podcast, I shut down.
Good.
And I could see emails and stuff coming in, and I've not done anything until Tuesday morning when we started, and actually then go and actually, there was stuff coming in. I thought, I'm not responding, even though I know that even we've got a public holiday and the States don't have a public holiday. I didn't start responding until Tuesday morning.
Well done, because a lot of us feel guilty for that. And we've got to get rid of that guilt.
Well, I remember talking to a salesman and who was well known for not answering emails. And I said to him, I said to him, what, you know, what's your thinking here? And he said, well, it's very straightforward. He said with email, he said, if you send them, they come back. So he said, and it's true. If you think about it, you send emails, they come back to you.
They
if
do.
You don't send any, none of them come back. So you don't have this backwards and forwards thing going on that we feel that we need to have. And it's just he was one of the top salespeople, even though everyone found him irritating that he didn't respond to emails. But he just said, you know, there's this constant backwards and forwards.
I love that. That's really good. I'm going to use that as an example. And Paula said, promoting boundaries. Yeah, I love that. And finding moments of joy.
Paula, I'm with you.
Yeah,
boundaries.
definitely.
You've got to get boundaries. You've got to decide. Yeah, I'm a big one for. I will send Slack messages outside of work, but I always set them to arrive in work at a work time.
So do I. We're at the right headspace there. And I think it's promoting boundaries with other people, but it's also promoting boundaries with yourself.
Yes.
So what are my boundaries? My boundaries are, and I do it myself, I'm going to make sure that on the weekend, I do not check emails. I do not go into my office. And before I did that, I would be popping in and out all the time, in and out and checking. And my other boundary, as I've just mentioned, is my mobile phone, definitely.
So we kind of moved on to what techniques do you use? So
well, I'm going to go back to the 90s, because back in the 90s, we didn't know the word burnout. Well, we probably had heard it, but we didn't use it and we didn't accept it. So back in the 90s, I didn't really have any techniques. And it was a situation where I was burnt out. I didn't even realize I was burnt out. I thought I just could not cope, because that's what apparently we couldn't do. And the actual technique I ended up doing at that time to help myself was I left that organization. And that's because the culture did not fit in with me. Their values did not fit in with me. And I ended up finding an organization with the same values and the same culture that I wanted. And they were the questions I asked in my interview. What are your values? What is the turnover of staff? So the turnover of staff in my previous company had been 76%. Huge. Right. And I wanted to make sure I wasn't going somewhere else. And you know what happened, Tim? This was so intriguing. I found it so hard to get my head around it. In the first week I was there, my boss came to me and said, Claire, at 2:00, you haven't had a lunch break. And I said, pardon? Well, I don't know how to have a lunch break. And she said, go and have a lunch break now. And I said, I can't. She said, yes, you can. And then I was due to leave at 5:30. I can't remember the exact time. And she came to me and she said, why haven't you packed up your desk yet? You should be going home. And I said, but I can't. I haven't done everything. I've got to do everything. And she said, Claire, put it down. What on this list of things to do cannot wait till tomorrow?
Yeah, it'll wait till tomorrow.
It will wait till tomorrow. So I had to get my head around that. And I think finding an organization, finding a manager that has the same values and the right culture fit for you was key for me in the 90s. And I think that's key for a lot of people. Nowadays, the techniques, we talk about them in organizations. It's great. So for me, it is, as we said earlier, just making sure when we're having our lunch break off, we're having a break, we're leaving work on time, we're laughing, we're having fun in the office, we're human beings. And we actually, what I've learned to do is schedule in me time.
Right.
So schedule in, and
it sounds ridiculous. Blocking things out in your calendar you're talking about.
Yeah, definitely. And it sounds a bit ridiculous having to schedule it in. However, if I don't schedule in, this is the time I'm walking my dog, this is the time I'm doing my yoga, it doesn't happen. It doesn't actually happen. So it's actually making sure we're kind to ourselves and we actually work out what suits us to help our brain relax. Because if we can train our brain to relax and then come back up when it needs to come up, it's going to really help prevent burnout.
Yeah, I found just taking the time out I always used to go out for lunch
Yeah.
outside,
Yeah.
and it meant
Yeah.
walking or something like that.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
did it once, and I came back, and I suddenly found my afternoon
Mm.
was so much more productive. It's like
Yeah.
it's good.
Yeah.
It's,
It
yeah,
is.
because
Yeah.
everybody, I was working at a corporation, and everybody was like, sending
Yeah.
emails to each other across the office rather
Yeah.
than going up and talking to each other. And I just found going out and was just that you just got
Mm.
more clarity of mind by stopping
Yeah.
and doing something that wasn't work.
Yeah. I love the example you've just given of we all email people right across the office, even sitting opposite us.
Yeah, they'd be sitting
So
over in the thing, and you'd send them an email, and
yeah.
then he might even walk over there and say, "Have you got my email?"
Yeah. So it was last Thursday, was On Your Feet Britain Day. Were you aware of that, Tim?
I wasn't. No,
Yeah,
I've
On Your
actually got a
Feet.
stand-up desk.
So have I. I love it. I love it. So I actually stood up at my desk all day last Thursday.
Right.
And I worked with organizations who really promoted On Your Feet Britain Day. And I had some organizations, all of them went for a walk at lunch. Another one, instead of sending emails, it was the policy for the day that you get up out of your desk, you go and talk to someone, even if they're in the other building. What else did they do? They had a scavenger hunt, one of my organizations, which was great, where they had to find different things around the organization by the end of the day. So made it a bit of fun as well. So just getting people up on their own and having meetings standing up. That's the other thing that they did.
Oh, the meetings will go far much quicker if you stand up.
Oh, definitely. Much quicker. Much quicker. So it's bringing little bits into your day, and I call it almost self-care snacking, or you can, if you're into exercise snacking, where we're doing little bits throughout the day. So if I'm boiling the kettle, I'll have a stretch in the kitchen.
Yeah.
In between meetings, I'm on a ball. You can probably see my ball bouncing around.
Oh,
yeah. So I actually stretch in between meetings on my ball. Yeah, very key.
So what can we do in terms of spotting the signs of burnout?
So this is a tricky one. And what I want people to think about is the 3 areas that we need to spot the signs in. So the first one is physically. What's physically happening to our bodies when we burn out? So I was exhausted. And when we're exhausted, it was a case where I would get aches in my back. I'd get migraines. I would, just be absolutely shattered. So think about your body when you are exhausted, physically exhausted. And then the emotional side of things. What happens to you when you're really feeling like you've just hit that brick wall? So for me, emotionally, I would be really, really on edge all the time, emotionally. And I cried a lot. I remember crying and crying and crying a lot. And so what happens to you emotionally? And the third one is behaviorally. What happens to you? So for me, I slept a lot and I ate a lot of sugar.
I was about to say, the classic thing is when you're tired or is basically to eat.
Yeah.
And quite often you can tell the people that are suffering from burnout, they're the ones standing at the chocolate machine.
Definitely. And the other thing that happened to me is my mindset was so negative. So if anything went wrong, I blamed myself. I'd walk into the office not wanting to go. Every Monday morning, I got a migraine. Every Friday night, it went. That's a big sign.
I started taking cashew nuts to work.
Yeah, that's a great one.
I'm not saying that cashew nuts are good for you.
Instead of sugar, I thought
it was instead of sugar. Or looking for sugar, and I would take it, so it was there and I didn't have to go out and buy it or anything like that.
Yeah.
Just
trying to get the healthy side. So for me, I would, on a Monday morning, I didn't want to go to work. My mindset was so negative, and I'd have to say mantras to myself: smile, be positive, be happy. You can do this, Claire. You're good. And it's like, why am I doing this? Because my mindset was so negative. So that's another big sign. What is our mindset like? So if we can actually spot those signs before they spiral out of control and down, we can do something about it. Early intervention with any mental health condition is the road for better recovery. So what we want to do is promote quicker and better recovery.
Claire, thank you so much for coming on and talking to us about
I can't believe 20 minutes has gone.
No.
That was
It's
so
the
quick.
best ones always go fast, Claire. I can tell you. I can assure you that. And thank you for the engagement to everybody as well. Claire, we have actually covered an awful lot of in the time frame. Where can people find you? Can you remind us?
I'll remind you, and as you said earlier, I hadn't picked that up. It is actually the website without the Claire at. It's novaassociates.co.uk, and I'm also on LinkedIn. I'd love anyone to actually connect with me on LinkedIn. That would be great.
Thank you, Claire. Thank you so much for coming on and talking about it. It's a good job we didn't both fall asleep during the interview.
Oh, that was lucky. That was lucky. We're not burnt out, Tim. That's
I remember going on holiday with my partner at the time to France, and she was probably in a more high-powered job than I was. And I remember going to France, and we pretty much slept for the whole holiday.
Oh, wow.
And it was
okay, thank you very much.
It was just one of those. At the time, it just seemed like the thing to do, and we just slept.
And can I ask you, did you go back to work after the holiday and still feel exhausted?
No, I think that we slept so much.
Yeah.
That that we probably, whatever sleep that we needed to catch up on, we kind of burned off.
Yeah, because I've known people who have actually then gone back to work and they're still exhausted.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen people that have been burned out, and it's taken 18 months
at least. So let's take care.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've got to take care of ourselves, because we're the only people who will.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, Claire, and thanks for everybody for watching.
Thanks for all your